important because our job here in this deep dive is to kind of guide you through this slice of news. We're going to pull out the most significant bits, help you cut through the noise a little. We'll try and connect the dots, between stories that might seem unrelated at first, give you a shortcut to what's going on, and hopefully, maybe trigger a few aha moments for you about the bigger picture.
All right, sounds good. Let's start with legal and policy shifts, stuff happening right here in the U.S. First headline that kind of jumped out at me. Attorney General Pam Bondi announces dismissal of charges against plastic surgeon accused of faking COVID-19 vaccine cards. It names Bondi, names the surgeon Michael Kirkmore. Pretty specific.
Right. And what's striking about this dismissal is how it immediately taps into that ongoing tension, doesn't it? Public health versus individual liberties. It kind of suggests that maybe states or courts are starting to set precedents that push back against broader health rules. In fact, there was another headline floating around, something like, doctors and public health organizations sue Kennedy over vaccine policy change.
Okay. So you see a pattern.
Exactly. It's not just isolated cases. It feels like part of a bigger ongoing legal and public health debate about policy choice and who holds the power.
That makes sense, how one case can echo others. Now, switching gears slightly, but still policy, this one's about consumer protection. A click-to-cancel rule intended to make canceling subscriptions easier is blocked. Seemed like a good idea for consumers, right? Simple cancellation, but nope, blocked. What's going on there?
Well, it really highlights that constant friction, Regulators trying to protect consumers, industries pushing back saying it's too much red tape. Blocking that rule, it's not just about subscriptions. It kind of shows the power that lobbies can have influencing our daily experiences. Mm-hmm. And if you put that next to this other headline, U.S. judge grants Trump admin request to scrap Biden-era medical debt rule.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah, you start seeing a bigger picture emerge. It's not just like political back and forth. It's a major policy reversal. Scrapping that medical debt rule could affect millions. Shows how fast policy changes can shift the ground under people's feet, financially speaking.
Yeah, it makes you wonder about the overall direction of these regulations. And speaking of things that make you wonder, and maybe erode trust. This next one is pretty jarring. Federal officials say a prominent Georgia Republican was running a $140 million Ponzi scheme.
Oof.
$140 million.
The scale plus the political connection. It's unsettling.
Absolutely. And it's more than just the financial fraud, isn't it? When you have a prominent political figure involved in something like this, a massive Ponzi scheme.
Yeah.
It really hits trust in the system, not just the person.
Right.
It throws up big questions about oversight, about accountability. It's not just the money. It's the damage to public faith. That can last a long time.
Yeah, the impact definitely goes way beyond the dollars. Okay, let's pivot now. Some really concerning global and domestic issues surface too. Humanitarian, environmental stuff, starting with a very, very grim international report. Israeli settlers kill American Palestinian visiting relatives in West Bank, says family. And there was a follow-up noting, U.S. aware of reported death of American after beating by Israeli settlers. Yeah, the gravity of that, you can't overstate it. It throws us right into that incredibly complex, volatile situation. And the fact that an American citizen is involved, well, that immediately brings the U.S. government into it. But more than that, it just highlights the tragic human cost of these ongoing tensions. The danger for civilians is immense.
It really underscores the ripple effects.
Mm-hmm.
Now, shifting back home domestically, there's a cluster of really disturbing reports about immigration facilities. One headline was particularly stark. Detained immigrants at Alligator Alcatraz say there are worms and food and wastewater on the floor.
Just horrific details.
Incredibly vivid, yeah, and disturbing.
And the key thing here is to see how this specific awful detail connects to a wider pattern. You look at the other headlines, children left alone after mothers arrested in immigration raids.
Oh, I saw that one too.
Yeah.
Heartbreaking.
And a Miami dad was leaving the U.S. He ended up at Alligator Alcatraz, and then the legal challenge. Florida lawmakers who were denied access to Alligator Alcatraz's sue Governor DeSantis.
So it's not just one bad situation.
Not at all. Taken together, these paint a really troubling picture of potential systemic issues, concerns about treatment, the impact on families, and big questions about transparency and oversight from the government. It forces you to think about human dignity, accountability, right here.
Definitely heavy stuff. Okay, moving from human rights to environmental and cultural preservation, we saw this story. An indigenous Australian community is fighting to protect sacred springs from a coal mine.
Yeah, and this feels like a classic conflict, doesn't it? But the stakes seem higher now globally. It perfectly frames that clash, economic development versus, well, environmental and cultural heritage. But it also points to the growing recognition of indigenous rights, land stewardship.
Right.
It's not just about a mine or some springs, it's about irreplaceable culture, a way of life. And we see similar fights playing out all over the world where progress meets ancestral lands and ecology.
A global theme. Now, just briefly, touching on international politics again. Polish prosecutors investigate far-right lawmaker for comments on Auschwitz.
This one, it really highlights the ongoing sensitivity around the Holocaust, doesn't it? The historical significance. It's a stark reminder, really, of past horrors and the need for constant vigilance against extremism, against denial or distortion of history. It's about remembrance.
A vital point. And on a more human note, a poignant headline. UK's oldest WWII veteran, Donald Rose, dies at a 110.
Ah, yes. His passing, it really feels like the end of an era, doesn't it? That generation shaped so much of our modern world. It's a moment to reflect not just on the immense sacrifices of WWII veterans, but also on the collective memory, the stories we risk losing as that generation passes. Their experiences are so important.
Truly the end of an era. Okay, let's move into our final section, technology, public safety, and some, well, unforeseen events. First up, AI. We've got AI chatbot Grok issues apology for anti-Semitic posts.
Right, and this is where it gets really interesting because that headline doesn't exist in a vacuum. It connects directly to another one we saw. Musk's latest Grok chatbot searches for billionaire moguls' views before answering questions.
Ah, okay. So Grok apologizes for bias, but it's also designed to reflect its owner's views.
Exactly. And putting those together really shines a light on this tricky intersection of AI ethics, bias, and the, let's face it, undeniable influence of the developers and owners. It makes you ask a really important question. How impartial is the information we're getting from these AI systems?
Yeah.
How much are they just reflecting their creators' biases?
That's a huge question, especially as AI gets more integrated into everything.
It really is. We need to think critically about that black box.
Okay, shifting to something more tangible, critical infrastructure. This one caught my eye. FEMA removed dozens of Camp Mystic buildings from a 100-year flood map before expansion, records show.
Yeah, that's a major red flag. FEMA, the Federal Emergency Management Agency, their mapping is crucial for safety. And this connects, unfortunately, with another report. FEMA records show Kerr County didn't alert all cell phones as flooding began.
Oh, no. So mapping issues and alert issues, both FEMA related.
Precisely. Both stories point to critical vulnerabilities. When flood maps get changed, potentially incorrectly, or when emergency alerts fail, the consequences for public safety are severe, immediate even.
People rely on that information. Lives depend on it.
Absolutely. Accurate maps, timely warnings, they save lives. These incidents show serious potential flaws in the system.
Okay, here's a headline that sounds almost historical, but it's current. Arizona patient dies in emergency room from plague.
Plague. Yeah, it sounds like something out of the Middle Ages. It's certainly rare now, but an event like this, it really underscores why we still need robust disease surveillance. A reminder that even old diseases can pop up and pose a threat. Public health vigilance is key.
A stark reminder indeed. And then another infrastructure issue, this time communication. Statewide 9/11 outage reported in Pennsylvania.
Wow. A statewide 9/11 outage. The impact of something like that is just massive. Profound. It hits right at the heart of public safety and emergency response. It shows a critical vulnerability in our basic communication systems.
You just assume 9/11 will always work.
Exactly. In a crisis, you need that connection instantly. An outage like this really highlights how dependent we are on these systems working perfectly and how fragile they can sometimes be.
Scary thought. Okay, finally, to wrap this section, a really bizarre and disturbing crime story. Dentist accused of poisoning his wife's protein shakes going on trial for murder.
Yeah. These kinds of stories, sadly, they tap into something deep, don't they? That shock of personal betrayal, especially when it reaches such a devastating high-stakes level. It's that breach of intimate trust that's so horrifying and, frankly, captivating in a grim way.
Right. It's just hard to fathom. Wow. Okay, so we've really covered a lot of ground, haven't we? From these big U.S. policy shifts, international tensions, all the way to AI ethics, infrastructure problems, public health scares, and yeah, some truly strange domestic stories. It really shows how diverse the news is on any single day and how fast things change.
It's a powerful snapshot, isn't it? Shows how much information is flowing, sometimes contradictory stuff all at once. And this deep dive hopefully gives you, our listener, that shortcut to making sense of it. But it also raises a question for you, right? In this flood of information, how do you figure out what really matters? How do you synthesize it all? And what are the bigger implications of these individual stories for, the world we're living in?
Exactly. That's the challenge. So maybe something to think about as you go through your day. What connections do you see between these headlines that might seem totally separate at first glance? How does this snapshot of news from July 12, 2025 shape your understanding of where things are right now? What trends do you notice?